It's a great pleasure for me to be talking today with Christina Chambreau. She is a doctor of veterinary medicine, veterinarian, and also an internationally known homeopathic veterinarian. Is that an accurate way to describe
It's one
your?
of many to describe me. I was one of the first I was in the first group of people doing veterinarians doing homeopathy in the US. Dr. Pitcairn started it, and Dr. Jeff Levy was right up there at the very beginning. And then a group of us, Dr. Hamilton and Loops and myself, got it going.
Let's back up first and tell me how you originally decided you wanted to become a vet and your experience with veterinary school and actually being I'll say, traditional veterinarian, traditional practicing veterinarian.
More like a conventional. Traditional would be Asian or or healthy medicine. So conventional vet, which I never was for very long. It's really an angelic, synchronistic story. When I was sick, my dad was in the Air Force and we lived in Japan on a base. And in sixth grade, I was co-editor of our sixth grade newspaper, and my co-editor's mother worked in a parasitology lab. When science fair time came around, he said, "Why don't you get these big jars of yucky worms and do something with it?" And so I did life cycles, and I won a prize actually. And the next year, I was still in Japan, but he was gone. His mom was gone. So I went to the local vet clinic, the base veterinary clinic, and learned how to use the microscope to identify worm eggs. And my dad hooked me up with cameras to take pictures of the worm eggs. So that was my science fair project, was life cycles of the parasites, which I had, and then pictures of them. And the microscope there and how to do fecals and all that. While there, I got sort of interested. We've had a dog, we had a dog when I was growing up. We had horses. It wasn't like I got to fix animals or anything. Got very interested in the clinic and worked there for 25 cents an hour the next summer, and was allowed to do surgery, help with surgery and take some stitches in my own dog when we had to take a tumor off. And then so I decided then to become a veterinarian. And I was just young enough that I fell afoul of we won't take women in veterinary school. So when I finished pre-vet at Colorado State University, the faculty said, "Don't bother to apply." This was 1970, because you're a woman and we only take two women out of a class of 100. Well, my grades weren't high enough to compete with 400 other women. So I quit, went to take care of my family. There were some issues with my mom and dad, and decided I'd go to pharmacy school. So I went to the University of Georgia because that's where the vet from Japan, the base vet, had gone. So I thought I'll try Georgia this time, and got into pharmacy school. And the next year, I was blessed again. The angels were on my side. And that was the year they enforced Title IX and stopped discriminating against women. And we had 50% women. And they used just the GRE and not the veterinary aptitude test. And I do much better on that. And my interview committee, one of the men on the interview committee was a private pilot. And I was a private pilot then. And so we spent the whole interview, about three-fourths of the interview, talking about flying. So I got into vet school and made it through vet school. Just, I don't remember, I worked hard and made it through and graduated, having done one weekend in an acupuncture course, one of the first with Marvin Kane and Grady Young way back at the beginning, but not doing, I didn't pursue it. Graduated from vet school and was working in multiple practices, doing sort of part-time work at different places, following in the footsteps of my National Institutes of Health lab animal medicine bosses. And I noticed, particularly with kennel cough, that and treating ears and a few other things, that every clinic I worked at had a totally different approach. And none of them really worked that well. And I thought, that's odd. They swear by this, they swear by this. So already I was sort of going, hmm. And I was at one clinic that I then was working at full time. And a client came, or a new person came in when I was at a satellite clinic doing, I was the vet tech and the receptionist and the vet all rolled into one, and said, would you draw blood and send the results to my homeopathic veterinarian who's a couple of hours from here? And I didn't want to drive that far. This is 1982. And I said, sure, I'll do that. And what's homeopathy? She was a psychologist who'd been using homeopathy for about a decade with very good results. So she told me all about it. I called the vet and I said, tell me about this. Well, the first course ever taught in the US by the National Center of Homeopathy was a British veterinarian came over to teach it. And all he taught was, for this condition, give these remedies. He didn't understand looking at the whole person. He didn't understand the energy balance, the vital force. He did. He actually understood it, but he didn't teach it. I should correct that. He was actually a good homeopath. His books just didn't teach it. So that's Dr. George MacLeod's books. And so the veterinarian said, oh, I'm going to send you something. So he sent me 2 bottles of these little white pellets, and he said, those are good for bladder problems. So again, not real how we understand homeopathy today. But a cat came in and had been on antibiotics for 3 years for bladder problems. And every time they stopped, immediately there'd be problems. So I said to my boss, can we use this? Try this? And he was the one talking to the owner, and he said, well, sure, go ask her. So I went in and I said, colleague up the road says this is very good for bladder problems. Would you like to try it? And she said, well, yes, Dr. Chambreau. Tell me more about homeopathy. I don't know anymore. This is all I know. Well, after 2 weeks on that, the cat was fine for the next 9 months I was at the practice, and I was hooked.
Wow. So just explain briefly what homeopathy is, as you would to a client, and why were you so drawn with it and continue to be? And what is the great value, as you see it, of homeopathy for animals? And
Well, I'm going to do both homeopathy and also how it's evolved for me and how it's brought forth my understanding. So there have been for 5,000 years, 10,000 years, healing based on energy medicine. We have Chinese medicine where acupuncture unblocks the blocked chi. We have Ayurvedic, we have that works with the prana, the breath. So we have indigenous healings that work using energy healing, shamanic work. Um, Hahnemann was in the late 1700s. Now, what did people use then to treat disease? Bloodletting, heavy poisonous metals, really nasty stuff. And so he quit after a couple of years of being a doctor and said, no, I'm not going to do that. And he put together a system of medicine based on, we have an energy field called the vital force. And we're going to test substances. Initially, he used the reactions to poisonings. We're going to test those on healthy animals, on healthy people. No testing is ever done on animals for homeopathy. And then we'll match the person's symptoms with the test symptoms. And when we give the remedy, if it's right, it rebalances the energy field, puts it back into homeostasis, so the energy field stops producing symptoms. And this is one really big key. Symptoms are not caused by the fungus. They're not caused by the food they're allergic to. They're not caused by the grass they're allergic to. They're caused by something triggering that energy field. So whether you're using Chinese medicine, intuitive healing, any of those, your goal is to rebalance the energy field, not merely get rid of symptoms. A balanced energy field will keep you healthy forever. And unless you get way off base, but then it'll get you back in balance again. And what I noticed over years, I mean, I'm 75 and I've been doing this since I was 32. Over the years, I noticed that sometimes I just had to talk about the remedy when I was doing phone consulting. And before the remedy actually arrived, the animal was recovering. So it was the energy of that medicine that was causing. So I have now moved. Homeopathy is great, and sometimes you actually need the remedy. But what's really important is that we tune in to what the animal needs, and it could just be on an energetic level. And also to tune in and allow the animal to help us know what they need. I have had clients mixing up a solution to dilute the remedy in the kitchen, and they had 5 St. Bernards in the rest of the house. And the one St. Bernard that it was for would come into the kitchen and hang out. I've had other animals that normally would take remedies or drugs or anything placidly just go, ugh, when their parents offered something. So, as pet professionals of any sort, it's really important, and as pet parents of any kind of animals, we need to honor what they're doing and honor what they want. Now, not always. Sometimes we have to say, I think we got to do it. But as much as we can, we need to honor them.
Do you personally practice, prescribe regular veterinary medicine? I mean, medical antibiotics, for example, that are in conjunction with
It
homeopathic
can be
remedy?
done, but it's not the best way to do it. And when I had my homeopathic virtual prescribing practice, now I do pet health advising, where anybody along the spectrum of wanting a healthy animal can call me and I help them figure out what's next, but I'm not prescribing. I would only, very, very rarely did I need to use a conventional drug. Now, often animals would come to me on drugs, anti-seizure drugs, anti-itching drugs, insulin, and I would leave them on the drug while we started homeopathy. And then as they recovered, we could start decreasing the medication to where they would then be completely off the medication.
How do you find the reception or the perception of homeopathy generally within the veterinary community and with clients? I mean, is there more acceptance recently that you found?
Well, I would say that homeopathy of all the holistic medicines is the least accepted because the medicines are diluted and it's so individualized that it's difficult to do studies on it. Quote, even though we're doing scientific studies with the testing and matching, so the conventional veterinarians and the veterinary schools are not very accepting of it. However, from day one of speaking to veterinary conferences, I definitely have more and more veterinarians saying, yeah, this is interesting. And we now have 2 veterinary courses available in the US to teach veterinary homeopathy. So there is definitely still interest. With with the public, it's basically either they've used it for their kids, or they've taken arnica for pain for themselves, or they're desperate. And that's often where they get started in homeopathy, is they're desperate. Or an animal intuitive. Their animals have told them they want homeopathy, and then they go in search of it. And it is a challenge to find holistic vets in general, and specifically homeopathic vets. There are fewer of us. So I wrote a great article on how to find and work with a holistic veterinarian that has all the websites for people to go to.
Yes, I was going to ask you where you would tell people to go to if they want more information.
Um, so a couple of things. The very best for learning about homeopathy and more is to go to Holistic Actions, which you'll be hearing from Dr. Jeff Feynman on this series. And he's the one that started it. And so just go to holisticactions.com, and there's a very free to inexpensive 101 course on health for how to keep your animals healthy. My website is my name, ChristinaChambreau.com. And, or if you're listening to this and not seeing my name written, you can go to myhealthyanimals.com. That might be easier to remember. And I can connect you up with things like the free article to find a vet, which is also on at Holistic Actions.
Wonderful. And I'm sure you believe it's a great stress reliever and anxiety reliever, not only for the animals, but for the guardians of.
It is. Once you decide, ah, I don't have to get rid of every symptom. Ah, let's see what my dog or cat needs, or horse or guinea pig. What do they need? When you shift your perspective from fix it, oh my God, I'm worried, to let's explore, then the whole world of resources that's available in the holistic field opens up. And it definitely, you'll have lots less stress, whether you're a pet parent or a pet professional recommending to the pet parents.
Well, there's so much to learn about this, and we could go on much longer, but we're approaching our time limit today. But thanks so much for giving your time to talk. I'm sure it'll be very helpful to many people. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad. And spread the word about this, everybody.
Definitely.